When 14 male bullies see a quiet black girl step into their small-town karate dojo, they mock her, certain she's too young and outmatched to belong. Maya's shy demeanor and second-hand GI make her an easy target, or so they think. What the bullies can't see is the fierce skill and discipline her late father taught her. When they try to humiliate her in front of the class, Maya's response in 60 breathtaking seconds leaves everyone stunned. What began as a cruel joke sparks a community reckoning and a fight for real justice. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The autumn breeze rustled through the trees as Trina's old Honda pulled into the strip mall parking lot. Maya sat quietly in the passenger seat, her small hands gripping the folded white GI that had once belonged to her father. The fabric was slightly worn but clean, carefully preserved like a treasure. "You've got this, baby," Trina said, reaching over to squeeze Maya's shoulder. "Remember what Daddy always said about martial arts?" Maya nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not about being tough. It's about being disciplined." The dojo occupied the corner unit of the shopping center, its large windows covered with faded posters of kicking figures and inspirational quotes. A bell chimed as they pushed open the glass door, releasing a wave of familiar scents: wood floors, athletic gear, and the sharp tang of cleaning supplies. Sensei Carter stood near the front desk, his black belt tied precisely around his crisp white uniform. His smile seemed genuine, if a bit reserved, as he approached them. "Welcome to Carter's Karate," he said, extending his hand first to Trina, then offering a gentler greeting to Maya. "You must be our new student." Maya bowed slightly, just as her father had taught her. "Yes, sir. Thank you for having me." From the main training floor came the sound of teenage laughter. 4 boys, all wearing brown belts, were huddled near the water fountain. The tallest one, Tyler, nudged his friends and jerked his chin toward Maya. "Look what just walked in," he muttered, loud enough to carry. The others, Austin, Chad, and Blake, snickered on cue. Trina's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady as she filled out the registration forms. Maya pretended not to notice, focusing instead on the rows of trophies lining the walls and the neat stacks of training equipment. "Maya, why don't you go change while your mother finishes the paperwork?" Sensei Carter suggested, pointing toward the girls' locker room. "Class starts in 5 minutes." The locker room was empty and echoed with Maya's careful movements as she changed into her GI. She could hear the boys' voices through the wall, their words muffled, but their tone clear enough. "Is this some kind of joke?" That was Tyler again. "She's like what, 6? 9, corrected another voice, probably Chad. "My little sister's in her grade." "Whatever, this isn't daycare." More laughter followed. Maya's fingers trembled as she tied her white belt, but she remembered her father's steady hands showing her the proper knot. One end over the other. Wrap around, through, and pull. She stood before the mirror, adjusting the uniform until it lay perfectly straight. Back in the lobby, Trina was just finishing the forms. She looked up as Maya emerged, her eyes filling with pride and worry in equal measure. "You look beautiful, baby. Just like a real karateka." "Mom," Maya whispered, embarrassed but pleased. The boys had moved onto the training floor now, stretching in a loose circle and still trading glances and smirks. Austin made a show of rolling his eyes when Maya walked past. "Everyone line up according to rank," Sensei Carter called out. The boys swaggered to their spots, brown belts marking their senior status. Maya took her place at the end of the line, the stark white of her belt a beacon of her beginner status. "Let's welcome our new student, Maya," Sensei Carter announced. "She'll be joining our Saturday morning youth class." Blake coughed something that sounded suspiciously like babysitting, setting off another round of poorly concealed laughter. Trina watched from the lobby, her hands clasped tightly together. She wanted to march onto that floor and give those boys a piece of her mind, but she held back. Maya needed to find her own way here. "Bow in," Sensei Carter commanded. The class turned to face the front wall, where a Japanese flag hung beside various martial arts certificates. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as she bowed, the familiar motion bringing both comfort and anxiety. She could feel the boys' presence behind her, their amusement at her expense almost tangible in the air. "First position," Sensei Carter called out. "Let's begin with our warm-up exercises." Maya settled into her stance, trying to focus on the instructor's words rather than the whispered comments and stifled chuckles from the teenage boys. She fixed her eyes straight ahead, channeling every ounce of determination she possessed. Tyler's voice carried in a stage whisper, "This ought to be good." But Maya held her position, her father's words echoing in her mind. "Stand straight. Breathe deep. You belong here as much as anyone else." She drew in a slow breath, willing her racing heart to steady itself as Sensei Carter began counting out the first exercise. The warm-up exercises started simple enough: jumping jacks, push-ups, and stretches. Maya moved through each motion with practiced precision, her muscles remembering the countless hours she'd spent training with her father in their garage. "Look at her trying to show off," Austin whispered loudly to Chad. "Bet she learned that from YouTube." Maya's cheeks burned, but she kept her eyes forward, focusing on Sensei Carter's instructions. The familiar movements brought comfort, even as the boys' snickers threatened to break her concentration. 20 mountain climbers," Sensei Carter called out. "Begin!" Maya dropped into position, her small frame moving efficiently through the exercise. Behind her, Tyler made exaggerated grunting noises, causing Blake to burst into poorly suppressed laughter. "That's enough," Sensei Carter said mildly, without turning around. "Focus on your own form." But the warning carried no real weight. The boys exchanged knowing looks, understanding that their behavior would go unchecked. "Now, let's practice our basic blocks," Sensei Carter announced. "Upper block, middle block, lower block. Follow my count." Maya settled into her stance, remembering her father's gentle corrections. "Keep your core tight," he'd always said. "Power comes from your center." Her arms moved smoothly through each position, muscle memory taking over. "Hey, look, she actually knows something," Chad stage whispered. "Maybe Daddy bought her a black belt at Walmart." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Her next block faltered, arms suddenly heavy with grief and anger. She heard Tyler snort behind her, followed by more muffled laughter. "Boys," Sensei Carter said, his tone still frustratingly gentle, "let's maintain proper dojo etiquette." Maya blinked hard, refusing to let tears form. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Never let them see you cry, baby girl. That's what they want. Show them your strength instead." The class moved on to basic kicks. Maya's technique was solid. Her father had drilled these movements countless times. But when she slightly lost balance during a round kick, the boys seized their opportunity. "Timber!" Blake called out softly, setting off another round of snickering. "Perhaps she needs her mommy to hold her hand," Austin added, just loud enough for Maya to hear. Sensei Carter cleared his throat. "That's not necessary," he said, but his eyes skated away from direct confrontation. "Let's move on to partner work." The energy in the room shifted immediately. The boys straightened up, exchanging predatory grins. "Sensei," Tyler called out, his voice dripping with false innocence. "Since we're showing the new student the ropes, maybe she should try sparring. You know, to see where she fits in?" Maya's heart raced, but she kept her face carefully neutral. Through the lobby windows, she could see her mother watching intently, ready to intervene at the first sign of trouble. "That's not usually how we introduce new students," Sensei Carter hedged, but Tyler pressed on. "Come on, Sensei. How else will she learn?" Unless she's scared. The challenge hung in the air. Other students along the walls shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Maya could feel their eyes on her, waiting to see what she would do. "I'm not scared," Maya said quietly, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. Sensei Carter looked uncertain. "Maya, you don't have to—" "Please, Sensei," she insisted, remembering her father's words about facing challenges head-on. "I want to learn." The rest of the class passed in a blur of basic drills and light conditioning. The boys continued their commentary, growing bolder with each tepid warning from Sensei Carter. Every time Maya executed a move correctly, they found something to mock: her size, her form, her presence itself. When Sensei Carter finally called for the class to line up and bow out, Maya's GI was damp with sweat, her muscles trembling from the effort of maintaining her composure. The boys swaggered past her toward the changing rooms, bumping shoulders and trading triumphant looks. "Good first class," Sensei Carter told her, but his eyes didn't quite meet hers. "See you next week?" Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She changed quickly in the empty locker room, carefully folding her father's GI and placing it in her bag. In the car, Trina watched her daughter buckle her seatbelt, concern evident in her expression. "How was it, baby? Did you like the class?" Maya stared straight ahead, summoning a smile she didn't feel. "It was good, Mom. I want to come back next week." "Are you sure? Those boys seemed—" Trina's voice trailed off, heavy with unspoken worry. "I'm sure," Maya said firmly, even as her hands clenched in her lap. "Daddy would want me to stick with it." Trina reached over and squeezed her daughter's shoulder, recognizing the stubborn set of Maya's jaw, so like her father's. The car pulled out of the parking lot, leaving behind the dojo, where Maya's real test was only beginning. Maya stood in the girls' locker room, her hands shaking slightly as she tied her GI belt. The cramped space felt even smaller today, especially when voices from the hallway drifted through the thin walls. "Did you see her last time?" Tyler's voice carried clearly. "Acting like she knows something." "We'll fix that today," Austin replied, followed by muffled laughter. "During sparring," Tyler continued, his voice dropping lower but still audible, "we'll show her what real karate looks like. Teach her where she belongs." Maya's stomach tightened, but she forced herself to breathe deeply, just as her father had taught her. "Center yourself," he would say. "Fear is normal, but don't let it control you." She adjusted her GI one last time, checking that the worn white fabric was properly aligned. The uniform had belonged to her father. It was too big, but she'd carefully folded and pinned it to fit. Every time she wore it, she felt closer to him. Through the lobby windows, Maya noticed several adults she hadn't seen before, watching the dojo floor with interest. They were dressed expensively, wearing expressions of smug superiority that matched their sons. Tyler's father, in particular, stood front and center, his arms crossed and jaw set in a way that mirrored his son's stance. Maya stepped onto the training floor, bowing formally at the threshold. The other students were already warming up, but the four boys stopped their stretching to stare at her. Tyler whispered something to Chad, and they both smirked. "Line up!" Sensei Carter called, and the class quickly formed rows. Maya took her place at the back, trying to ignore the sideways glances from other students. The warm-up passed quickly, though Maya noticed Tyler making frequent trips to the front desk, where he seemed to be studying a clipboard intently. She recognized it as the sparring rotation list, usually posted before class. "Today we'll focus on kumite, sparring," Sensei Carter announced. "Remember, this is about control and technique, not power. I expect clean matches." Tyler's hand shot up. "Sensei, I updated the sparring list like you asked. Should I read out the pairs?" Maya's heart sank. She hadn't missed the look that passed between Tyler and his friends, or the way Sensei Carter hesitated before nodding. "First round," Tyler announced, clearly savoring the moment. "Me versus the new girl." A murmur ran through the class. Several students shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Through the window, Tyler's father nodded approvingly. "Sensei," Maya said quietly, raising her hand. "I thought new students usually start with basics before sparring." Sensei Carter cleared his throat, not quite meeting her eyes. "Well, yes, but perhaps this will be a good learning experience. Sometimes we need to be—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Humbled to grow stronger." The boys didn't even try to hide their grins now. Maya felt her cheeks burn as she heard Tyler's father chuckle from the lobby. "Everyone clear the floor," Sensei Carter instructed. "Make a circle for the match." The class moved quickly, forming a ring around the central training area. Maya walked to her starting position, very aware of the eyes following her every move. The boys' parents pressed closer to the window, phones ready to record what they clearly expected to be an entertaining show. Tyler strutted to his spot, rolling his shoulders dramatically. At 16, he towered over Maya, his white belt a stark contrast to his confident demeanor. His friends had positioned themselves directly behind Maya, where she could hear their whispered commentary. "This'll be quick," Austin muttered. "Hope somebody brought a first aid kit," Chad added with a snicker. Maya closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. She could almost feel her father's presence, remembering the countless hours they'd spent training together. His voice echoed in her memory. "Size isn't everything, Maya. Technique beats strength when you know how to use it. Bow to the front," Sensei Carter commanded. Maya and Tyler turned to bow to the dojo shrine. Bow to each other. Maya dipped respectfully, while Tyler barely nodded his head. "Fighting stance!" Maya settled into her position, feet placed precisely, guard up but relaxed. She noticed Tyler's stance was wider than necessary, his weight too far forward, exactly the kind of mistakes her father had taught her to recognize. "Remember," Sensei Carter said, though his warning seemed directed more at Maya than Tyler, "this is about learning, not proving anything." Tyler's smirk widened as he raised his hands, clearly anticipating an easy victory. Behind him, his father leaned forward expectantly, phone held high to capture his son's moment of triumph. The air in the dojo felt electric with anticipation. Maya could sense the other students holding their breath, waiting for the inevitable. Even Sensei Carter seemed tense, perhaps already regretting his decision. "Ready." Sensei Carter raised his hand, the signal to begin moments away. Maya drew one last calm breath, her father's teachings crystallizing into perfect clarity in her mind. "Begin!" Tyler charged forward with a wild grin, his larger frame casting a shadow over Maya. His first punch was sloppy. All power, no precision. Maya saw it coming as if in slow motion, just like when she trained with her father. "Let them come to you," her father's voice whispered in her memory. "Use their momentum against them." Maya shifted slightly, letting Tyler's punch graze past her shoulder. In the same fluid motion, she stepped in, her small hand catching his extended arm. Before anyone could blink, she pivoted, using Tyler's own forward momentum to send him flying. He landed hard on his back, the impact driving the air from his lungs with an audible "oof." The dojo fell silent. Tyler lay there, blinking at the ceiling in confusion. His father's phone lowered slightly. "Lucky shot!" Austin shouted, breaking the silence. He stepped forward, fists clenched. "Let me show you." "Wait your turn," Sensei Carter interrupted, but Austin was already charging. Maya centered herself again, remembering her father's teachings. Speed beats strength when you know where to strike. Austin's attack was even sloppier than Tyler's. Pure anger, no technique. Maya ducked under his wild swing, her small frame moving like water. Her counter was perfect, a swift sweep that caught Austin's legs mid-stride. He toppled forward, face planting onto the mat. Chad and Blake exchanged nervous glances. The crowd of students had grown completely still, their expressions a mixture of shock and growing admiration. Through the window, Maya caught a glimpse of her mother arriving to pick her up, stopping short at the unexpected scene. "Who's next?" Maya asked quietly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Chad stepped forward, trying to look tough, but betrayed by his trembling hands. He took a fighting stance, more cautious than his friends had been. It didn't matter. When he finally attacked, Maya read his movement like an open book. A quick block, a precise strike to his solar plexus. Not hard, but perfectly placed. And Chad doubled over, stumbling backward. Blake, the last of the four, looked like he wanted to run. But with his friends groaning on the mat and their parents watching, he had no choice. He approached Maya with his hands raised defensively. "Remember to breathe." Maya heard her father's voice again. "Stay focused until the very end." Blake circled cautiously, looking for an opening. Maya remained still, perfectly balanced. When he finally struck, she moved like lightning. A quick sidestep, a gentle redirect of his punch, and suddenly Blake was airborne. He landed beside Tyler, who was just managing to sit up. The entire exchange had taken less than a minute. Maya bowed formally to each fallen opponent, maintaining perfect composure despite her thundering heart. The dojo erupted in whispers and gasps. Several students broke into spontaneous applause, quickly silenced by glares from Tyler's father and the other parents in the lobby. Trina stood in the doorway, her hand covering her mouth, eyes shining with pride and unshed tears. She knew exactly what this moment meant. All those hours Maya had spent training with her father. All the quiet strength he had instilled in their daughter before his passing. The other students crowded around Maya, their previous silence transformed into excited chatter. "That was amazing," a young girl whispered. "Where did you learn to move like that?" "My father taught me," Maya replied softly, maintaining her humble demeanor despite the triumph surging through her veins. Sensei Carter approached slowly, his expression a complex mixture of embarrassment and reluctant admiration. "Well, that was unexpected," he managed, clearing his throat. "Good. Good technique, Maya." The four boys had finally regained their feet, huddling together near the edge of the mat. Their faces burned with humiliation as their parents stormed away from the lobby windows. Tyler's glare promised that this wasn't over, but Maya noticed something new in the eyes of her other classmates. Respect. A younger student tugged at Maya's sleeve. "Can you teach me that sweep you used?" she asked eagerly. Others nodded in agreement, moving closer. Maya stood straight, just as her father had taught her. "The key is balance," she began, demonstrating the proper foot position. More students gathered around, hanging on her every word. For the first time since entering the dojo, Maya felt truly seen. The four boys skulked toward the locker room, their usual swagger replaced by stiff, painful movements. Their whispered threats carried across the dojo, but Maya barely heard them. She was too busy showing a group of fascinated students the proper way to position their hands for a basic block. Trina watched from the doorway, her heart swelling with love and pride. Her daughter stood tall in her late husband's carefully altered gi, teaching with the same gentle patience he had always shown. In that moment, Maya wasn't just a 9-year-old girl in a hostile dojo. She was her father's legacy, standing firm against injustice with skill, grace, and dignity. Maya and Trina sat at their small kitchen table, sharing a celebratory dinner of mac and cheese, Maya's favorite comfort food. The steam rose from their bowls as Trina watched her daughter try to hide a proud smile. "You know what?" Trina said, pulling out her phone. "I recorded those matches. Want to see?" Maya nodded eagerly, scooting her chair closer. On the small screen, she watched herself move with a grace that surprised even her. The video showed all 4 encounters, each lasting only seconds, but packed with the techniques her father had drilled into muscle memory. "Dad would be so proud," Maya whispered, touching the screen gently. "He is proud, baby. Wherever he is." Trina squeezed her daughter's shoulder. "I'm going to post this. People should see what my girl can do." Maya blushed but didn't object as her mother uploaded the video to her social media page. They finished dinner, did the dishes together, and Maya went to bed feeling lighter than she had in months. The next morning, everything changed. Maya was eating breakfast when Trina's phone started buzzing non-stop. The video had exploded overnight, shared hundreds of times. Most comments were supportive, but there were darker ones too. Angry parents calling Maya dangerous and out of control. "Don't read those," Trina said firmly, taking her phone away. "Let's get you to school." But school was different too. Kids whispered as Maya walked past. Some looked scared, others hostile. In her first class, she heard Tyler's younger sister telling everyone that Maya had viciously attacked her brother and his friends. "She's crazy," the girl stage whispered. "My mom says she shouldn't be allowed around normal kids." Maya's throat tightened, but she kept her head high, just like her father taught her. During lunch, she sat alone, picking at her sandwich while checking her phone. The rumors were everywhere now, twisted versions of what had happened. According to social media, she had ambushed the boys, had used illegal moves, was unstable and violent. The house phone started ringing that afternoon. Anonymous callers left threatening messages. Their neighbors, who usually waved cheerfully, hurried inside when they saw Trina's car pull up. Then came the call from Sensei Carter. Maya sat on the couch, close enough to hear both sides of the conversation as Trina put the phone on speaker. "Mrs. Daniels," Sensei Carter's voice wavered. "We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Trina's tone was ice cold. "The parents of several students have expressed serious concerns about safety. They're threatening legal action. Maya's display yesterday was technically against dojo rules. Students aren't supposed to spar outside their age and weight class. Rules you ignored when those boys targeted my daughter." Trina shot back. "Yes, well," Carter cleared his throat. "The thing is, we need to suspend Maya's membership. Just temporarily, until things cool down. You understand? It's a liability issue." "A liability issue?" Trina's voice rose. "The only liability was letting those boys bully a 9-year-old girl. Maya defended herself using proper technique, which you would know if you'd been paying attention, instead of letting those boys run wild." "Mrs. Daniels, please. Tyler's father is on the city council. The other parents are threatening to pull their kids out. I have a business to think about. And I have a daughter to think about," Trina snapped. "A daughter who did nothing wrong except stand up for herself. But I guess that's still not allowed, is it?" The line went quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry," Carter said finally. "The suspension stands. We'll refund your membership fees." Trina hung up without another word. She turned to Maya, who sat very still, hands folded in her lap like her father had taught her during meditation. "Baby," Trina started. "It's okay, Mom," Maya said quietly. "I understand." Later that night, Maya sat cross-legged on her bed, watching the video again on her tablet. In it, she moved with confidence and skill, each technique perfect, just as her father had shown her. She looked strong, capable, everything he'd wanted her to be. But now that strength had turned the whole town against them. Her phone buzzed with cruel messages from fake accounts. Through her window, she saw Mrs. Peterson across the street quickly closing her curtains. Trina appeared in the doorway, still in her work clothes. She'd spent the afternoon dealing with worried calls from her supervisor about All this negative attention. You watching that again? She asked softly. Maya nodded. Did I do something wrong, Mom? Should I have just let them win? Trina crossed the room in 3 quick steps and sat on the bed, pulling Maya into a fierce hug. No, baby. You did exactly what you should have done. You stood your ground. You showed respect, even when they didn't deserve it. Your father taught you well. But now, everyone hates us. They don't hate us. They're scared because you showed them something they didn't expect. People get mean when they're scared. Trina pulled back, looking Maya in the eyes. But we're not going to let them win. Not now. Not ever. What can we do? We fight back. The right way, like your father taught you. With dignity, with skill, and with truth. Trina's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. I promise you, Maya, this injustice will not stand. The morning sun cast long shadows across the sidewalk as Maya walked to school, her small hand gripped tightly in her mother's. The usual chorus of children's voices and running feet had gone quiet. Parents hustled their kids to the other side of the street, whispering and pointing. Head up, baby, Trina murmured, squeezing Maya's hand. Just like Dad taught you. Maya straightened her spine, trying to channel her father's quiet strength. But her stomach churned as they approached the school entrance. Groups of students scattered like startled birds as they passed. Remember what we talked about, Trina said, kneeling to straighten Maya's collar. You did nothing wrong. If anyone gives you trouble, go straight to the teacher, Maya finished. I know, Mom. Trina hugged her daughter tight, then watched as Maya walked through the heavy double doors. The whispers started immediately. That's her. My brother said she's crazy. Mom says we can't play with her anymore. Maya kept her eyes forward, just like in the dojo. Focus on the path ahead. Don't let them see you flinch. She made it to her classroom and slid into her seat, noticing how the surrounding desks suddenly emptied. Even Mrs. Peterson, her usually warm-hearted teacher, seemed different. When Maya raised her hand to answer a math question, Mrs. Peterson's eyes skipped right over her, calling on someone else. During group work, no one would partner with her. I'll work alone, Maya told Mrs. Peterson quietly, fighting back tears. Maybe that's best, Mrs. Peterson replied, not quite meeting her eyes. Just for now. At her desk, Maya could hear Tyler's sister Jessica holding court with her friends. My brother had to go to the doctor, Jessica announced loudly. She could have really hurt him. Dad says she's dangerous. Maya's pencil snapped in her grip. She hadn't hurt anyone. She'd used controlled techniques, perfect form, just like Dad taught her. But no one seemed to care about the truth. Meanwhile, across town at the customer service center where she worked, Trina sat stiffly in her supervisor's office. Mr. Roberts shuffled papers on his desk, looking uncomfortable. Trina, you've been an excellent employee, he began. But this situation with your daughter, it's causing some concern in the community. My daughter defended herself against bullies, Trina said evenly, using proper martial arts technique. Yes, well, Mr. Roberts cleared his throat. Several of our clients have expressed discomfort. The video you posted has gotten quite a bit of attention. Not all of it positive. So I should have let my daughter be humiliated? Let those boys. We're not discussing the incident itself, Mr. Roberts cut in. We're discussing the impact on our business. I need you to keep family matters private, Trina. Take down the video. Stop engaging with comments online. We can't have this kind of negative attention. Trina's hands clenched in her lap. Is my job at risk, Mr. Roberts? He wouldn't meet her eyes. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. During her lunch break, Trina tried calling Sensei Carter again. This time, he actually answered. Mrs. Daniels, I truly am sorry, he said, sounding tired. But Tyler's parents have already contacted their lawyer. They're talking about suing for endangerment. Endangerment? Trina's voice cracked. Those boys targeted my daughter. I know. But they're claiming Maya used excessive force, that she wasn't properly supervised. Their lawyer says I could lose everything. So instead, you're punishing a 9-year-old girl for defending herself? What happened to all that talk about discipline and character? Carter sighed heavily. Sometimes we have to make hard choices to survive. I'm sorry, but the suspension stands. Back at school, Maya sat alone at lunch, her sandwich untouched. The cafeteria buzzed with conversation, but a bubble of silence surrounded her table. She watched other kids laughing, sharing snacks, making plans for after school. Even Jenny, who had smiled at her yesterday after the sparring matches, now sat with her back turned. Maya pulled out her notebook, opening it to a blank page. She started sketching the basic stances her father had taught her, adding notes about foot positioning and weight distribution. If she couldn't practice at the dojo, she'd practice at home. She'd keep training, keep improving. A shadow fell across her page. Maya looked up to see Jessica and 2 other girls standing over her table. "Drawing your attack plans?" Jessica sneered. "My dad says you're lucky you're not in jail." Maya closed her notebook carefully. "I didn't attack anyone. It was a fair match." "Fair? 4 boys ended up on the ground. You're just a freak who can't control herself." The words stung, but Maya remembered her father's voice. The strongest response is often silence. She packed up her lunch, stood, and walked away, Jessica's taunts following her down the hall. In the bathroom, Maya splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. She saw her father's determined eyes looking back at her. He'd faced worse than this, she knew. He'd told her stories about being the only black belt in his dojo, about people who didn't want him to succeed. "I won't quit," she whispered to her reflection. "I'll find a way back. I promise, Dad." The afternoon sun was sinking behind the trees as Maya trudged home, taking the long way to avoid passing Tyler's house. Her backpack felt heavier than usual, weighted down with the day's loneliness. Lost in thought, she almost bumped into someone standing at the corner of Mason Park. "Whoa there, young lady," a gentle voice said. "Looks like you're carrying more than just those books." Maya looked up to see Mr. Jefferson, the dojo's janitor, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. He was still wearing his gray work uniform, a ring of keys jangling at his belt. "Sorry, Mr. Jefferson," Maya mumbled, stepping back. "No need to apologize." He gestured to a nearby bench. "Got a minute to sit with an old man? These legs aren't what they used to be." Maya hesitated, then nodded. They settled onto the worn wooden bench, watching kids play on the swings across the park. "Heard what happened at the dojo," Mr. Jefferson said quietly. "Reminded me of something from way back in '65. Maya turned to him, curious despite herself. "What happened?" "I was about 16. Worked up the courage to enter a local boxing tournament. First black kid to ever try." He shook his head, chuckling without humor. "Man, you should have seen those faces when I stepped in that ring. Everyone expected me to fail. Some hoped I would." "Did you?" Maya asked. "Won 3 matches straight. Clean victories, perfect technique." His voice softened. "Next day, they changed the rules, said I didn't have the right paperwork, didn't meet some new requirements they'd just made up. Sound familiar?" Maya nodded, feeling tears prick at her eyes. "They won't let me come back to class. They're saying I'm dangerous." That's their favorite word when they're scared. Dangerous. What they really mean is you showed them something they didn't expect. Showed them their assumptions were wrong. Mr. Jefferson pulled a worn photograph from his wallet, showing it to Maya. "Know who that is?" Maya studied the faded image of a young black man in a karate gi, standing proud with a trophy. "Is that you?" "Nope. That's your daddy, about 20 years ago. He used to train at the community center where I worked after the boxing thing fell through. Never saw someone so dedicated, so focused on getting every move just right. Maya's eyes widened. You knew my dad? Sure did. And I knew his teacher, too. Sensei Ruth Williams. Toughest woman I ever met. Still volunteers at the center, matter of fact. Mr. Jefferson checked his watch. She might be there right now, if you're interested. Maya glanced at her phone. Mom's expecting me home. Call her. Tell her you're getting some extra help with homework at the community center. Not exactly a lie, just different kind of learning. 20 minutes later, Maya followed Mr. Jefferson through the dojo's back entrance, the familiar smell of wood and canvas mats washing over her. In the dim light of the empty training hall stood a tall black woman with silver-streaked hair, pulled back in a tight bun. Her GI was crisp and white, her black belt worn but perfectly tied. So, this is James's girl, Sensei Ruth said, her voice deep and steady. I see his spirit in your eyes. Maya bowed instinctively. You taught my father? For 3 years, before he moved to the city. Ruth circled Maya slowly, evaluating her stance. Mr. Jefferson told me about your matches. 4 opponents in under a minute. Impressive. But now comes the real test. What test? Standing your ground when the whole world tries to push you down. Ruth moved to the center of the mat. Your father faced the same battles. He learned that technique isn't just about punches and kicks. It's about keeping your dignity when they try to take it. About finding your power when they say you don't deserve any. Maya felt something stir in her chest. Hope, maybe, or determination. Will you teach me? 3 nights a week after closing. Mr. Jefferson will let you in. Ruth's stern expression softened slightly. But you have to promise me something. What? No matter how hard it gets, no matter what they say or do, you keep showing up. You keep training. You keep proving them wrong, not with anger, but with excellence. Can you do that? Maya thought of her father, of his quiet strength and unwavering perseverance. Yes, Sensei. Then let's begin. Show me your front stance. For the next hour, Ruth drilled Maya on basics, correcting the smallest details of each movement. Her teaching style was different from Sensei Carter's, more demanding, more precise, but also more encouraging. When Maya executed a perfect kick, Ruth's good felt like the highest praise. Mr. Jefferson watched from his spot by the door, occasionally sharing stories about Maya's father's training days. He used to practice that same kick hundreds of times, he said. Said he wouldn't stop until it was flawless. As the session ended, Maya felt muscles burning she didn't know she had, but her heart felt lighter than it had all day. Same time Wednesday, Ruth said, adjusting Maya's GI collar. And remember, excellence is your answer to ignorance. Walking home in the growing darkness, Maya replayed Ruth's words in her mind. For the first time since the suspension, she felt truly hopeful. The bullies might have taken away her spot at the dojo, but they couldn't take away her determination to improve, to excel, to prove herself worthy of her father's legacy. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mom asking where she was. Maya picked up her pace, a small smile playing at her lips. She had allies now. She had a plan. Most importantly, she had a way to keep training, to keep growing stronger. The bullies thought they'd won, but Maya knew better. This was just the beginning. Maya's alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m., and she silently slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her mother in the next room. Her muscles ached from last night's training with Sensei Ruth, but she pushed through the discomfort as she changed into her workout clothes. The morning routine had become second nature over the past 2 weeks. Stretches, push-ups, and kata practice in their small backyard. The dewy grass soaked through her socks, but Maya didn't mind. Each morning session helped her stay sharp for the evening training at the community center. After her workout, Maya tiptoed back inside. She could hear her mother's tired movements in the kitchen. Trina's face looked drawn, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. "Morning, baby," Trina said, attempting a smile. "I made oatmeal." Maya noticed the pile of bills on the kitchen table, partially hidden under a newspaper. A red past due stamp peeked out from one envelope. "Thanks, Mom. I can wash the dishes before school." "You're such a good girl." Trina kissed Maya's forehead, then frowned at a new scratch on their kitchen window. "These vandals need to find better hobbies." Maya's stomach tightened. She knew who was responsible. The same people who'd keyed "go home" into their car's paint last week. The same ones who'd thrown rocks through their living room window, forcing them to patch it with plastic sheeting until they could afford repairs. "I can get a paper route," Maya offered, stirring her oatmeal, "to help with the bills." Trina's eyes softened. "No, baby. You focus on school and your study sessions." They both knew she meant the secret training, though they never discussed it directly. "I'll figure something out." At school, Maya kept her head high despite the whispers and pointed looks. The morning classes passed in a blur until lunch period arrived. As usual, she headed to her isolated corner table in the cafeteria. "Is this seat taken?" Maya looked up to see Emily Sloan standing there, lunch tray in hand. Emily was white, like most kids at school, but her smile seemed genuine. No," Maya said cautiously. "But you don't have to." "I want to," Emily said, sitting down. "Besides, my usual table's gotten kind of boring. All they do is talk about TikTok dances." Maya couldn't help but smile. She'd seen Emily in her classes, but had never really talked to her before. "Won't your friends be mad?" Emily shrugged, unwrapping her sandwich. "If they get mad about where I sit for lunch, they're not really friends, are they?" They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Emily spoke again. "I saw the video, by the way, of you at the dojo. It was amazing." Maya tensed, waiting for the criticism that usually followed. "Those boys deserved it," Emily continued. "They're jerks to everyone, but what they did to you was extra mean. My brother used to train with them before he quit. Said they were bullies even then." "Thanks," Maya said quietly. "Most people don't see it that way. Most people are scared of standing up to them because their parents are rich and important." Emily rolled her eyes. "My dad says that's what's wrong with this town. Too many people worried about making waves." After school, Maya helped her mother clean up another mess. Eggs thrown at their front door. Trina's hands shook as she scrubbed, but her voice remained steady. "We're not giving them the satisfaction," she said firmly. "This is our home." That evening at the community center, Maya threw herself into training with renewed energy. Ruth worked her harder than ever, drilling complex combinations and sparring techniques. Mr. Jefferson watched from his usual spot, offering encouragement and water breaks. "Your focus is improving," Ruth noted as Maya executed a perfect roundhouse kick. "You're learning to channel your frustration into power." "Had a lot of practice lately," Maya said, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Mm-hmm." "Speaking of practice," Ruth exchanged glances with Mr. Jefferson. "There's something you should know about." Maya lowered her guard, curious. "What is it?" "The Regional Youth Karate Championships are coming up next month," Ruth said, adjusting her belt. "Open registration. Any style welcome. No dojo affiliation required." Maya's heart skipped a beat. "You means you could compete," Mr. Jefferson said. "Show everyone what real karate looks like." "But," Maya hesitated, "what about Sensei Carter's suspension?" "He has no authority over public tournaments," Ruth said firmly. "This would be your chance to prove yourself on neutral ground, to reclaim your honor in front of the whole community." Maya thought about her mother's tired eyes, Emily's brave friendship, the endless whispers and vandalism. She thought about her father's photograph in Mr. Jefferson's wallet, standing proud with his trophy. "When can I register?" she asked. The town hall's wooden benches creaked as Maya and her mother found seats near the back. The monthly council meeting had drawn a larger crowd than usual, and Maya knew why. Whispers followed them like shadows. "That's the girl. The one from the dojo. Did you see the video?" Trina squeezed Maya's hand, her grip firm but gentle. They'd come to speak about the recent vandalism, but Mayor Thompson had shuffled their item to the end of the agenda. Maya watched as Tyler's father, dressed in an expensive suit, commanded attention near the front row. "Just community business," he was saying loudly to his circle of supporters. "We need to discuss safety at youth sporting events. Some participants are simply too aggressive." Emily appeared beside Maya's bench, her pink backpack clutched to her chest. "Hi," she whispered, sliding in next to them. "My dad made me come, but I'm glad you're here too." Maya smiled, grateful for the friendly face. As the meeting droned on, Emily passed her a folded note. Inside was a printed flyer for the Regional Youth Karate Championships, with the date circled in red marker. "I can help you register," Emily whispered. "My mom works at the recreation center. She knows all about sports paperwork." Trina leaned over, examining the flyer. Her eyes lingered on the entry fee, $50. Maya saw her mother's slight frown and knew what she was thinking. That was grocery money. "We'll figure something out," Trina murmured, tucking the flyer into her purse. The meeting grew heated when Tyler's father stood to speak. "We need stricter oversight of martial arts instruction," he declared. "Some students pose a clear danger to others. I move that we require special permits for any underage participants in combat sports." Maya's chest tightened. They were trying to block her from competing before she could even sign up. But then, something unexpected happened. A familiar voice cut through the murmurs. "Point of order." It was Mr. Jefferson, standing from his seat near the middle. His janitor's uniform was pressed clean, his bearing dignified. "The town council has no jurisdiction over state-sanctioned sporting events. The regional tournament is governed by the State Athletic Commission." Mayor Thompson cleared his throat. "Mr. Jefferson is correct. We cannot intervene in state-level competitions." The next morning, Emily met Maya before school. "Mom printed all the forms we need," she said, pulling papers from her backpack. "But we only have until Friday to submit everything." They worked through lunch, filling out paperwork. Emily's mother had highlighted where they needed signatures, but there was one crucial requirement they couldn't ignore. A certified instructor had to sign off on Maya's skill level and safety training. "Ruth can't do it," Maya said quietly. "She's retired. It has to be someone currently licensed." That afternoon, they went to the community center where Ruth trained Maya. Mr. Jefferson was there, mopping the floors, but he wasn't alone. Sensei Carter stood awkwardly by the water fountain, his usual confident posture absent. "Maya," he said, his voice heavy. "Could we talk?" Ruth appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "Whatever you have to say it here." Carter nodded, pulling a pen from his pocket. "I've been wrong about a lot of things. I let fear of losing business cloud my judgment." He held out his hand for Maya's papers. "I'll sign your medical clearance. You've more than earned it." Maya watched as he signed the forms, his signature careful and deliberate. He didn't meet her eyes, but his words were clear. "You were never officially expelled from the dojo. The suspension was unofficial. These forms are truthful." "Thank you," Maya said softly. That evening, Maya and her mother sat at their small kitchen table, sharing a simple dinner of spaghetti. The tournament entry forms lay between them, complete and ready to submit. Mr. Jefferson and Ruth pooled together for the entry fee, Trina said, twirling pasta on her fork. I tried to refuse, but she smiled. Ruth can be very persuasive. Maya pushed a meatball around her plate. Are you sure about this, Mom? What if they try something else? What if… Baby, Trina reached across the table, taking Maya's hand. For weeks, I've watched you wake up early to train, seen you hold your head high at school. You haven't let them break your spirit. She squeezed Maya's fingers. Maybe it's time we stopped hiding. Emily says she'll make posters, Maya said, a small smile forming. For the tournament. That girl's got a good heart. Trina's eyes grew distant. Your daddy would be so proud seeing you now. He always said karate wasn't just about fighting. It was about standing up for what's right. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the weight of recent weeks feeling somehow lighter. Through their patched window, the sunset painted the kitchen in warm colors, and for the first time in a long time, Maya felt real hope flutter in her chest. We should celebrate, Trina said suddenly. Ice cream? I think we've got enough for 2 small sundaes. Maya nodded, watching her mother move to the freezer. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight they allowed themselves to imagine victory. Not just in the tournament, but over the fear and hatred that had tried to drive them down. Emily's thumbs flew across her phone screen as she sat cross-legged on Maya's front porch. Look at this! 300 shares already! She tilted the screen to show Maya a video of their last training session with Ruth. Maya watched herself executing a perfect roundhouse kick. I don't know, Emily. Maybe we shouldn't draw so much attention. People need to see the truth, Emily insisted. How amazing you are! How wrong they've been! Inside, Trina was on the phone with the electric company. Again. But I paid that bill, she said, voice tight with frustration. I have the confirmation number right here. Maya tried to ignore her mother's conversation, but the worry lines on Trina's forehead told the whole story. 3rd time this month, their utilities had mysteriously malfunctioned. Emily's phone buzzed with another notification. Channel 5 wants to interview you. They saw my post about the tournament. No interviews, Trina called from inside, hanging up the phone. We need to keep our heads down until… A car drove by slowly, engine growling. Tyler's father behind the wheel, staring hard at their house. Emily instinctively scooted closer to Maya. You don't have to stay, Maya told her friend. I know your dad got those phone calls at his office. Emily's face hardened. I'm not going anywhere. My dad says if they want to threaten his job for supporting what's right, then maybe he needs a new job anyway. Later that afternoon, during training at the community center, Ruth was unusually quiet. Maya caught her checking her phone between drills. Everything okay, Sensei? Maya asked, wiping sweat from her forehead. Ruth's lips pressed into a thin line. Just some concerned citizens sharing their opinions about me training you. She tucked the phone away. Nothing I haven't heard before. Now, show me that kata again. But Maya had seen the message on Ruth's screen. Something about her volunteer position at the senior center being reconsidered. The sun was setting when they finished practice. Maya found a folded paper tucked under their welcome mat at home. Inside, newspaper letters had been pasted to spell, drop out or else. Trina found Maya staring at the note. Without a word, she took it, added it to a growing file, and pulled Maya into a tight hug. They're scared, Trina whispered, because they know you're going to show everyone exactly who you are. That evening, as Maya practiced in their small backyard, a familiar figure approached the fence. Sensei Carter looked different, tired, older somehow. Maya, he said softly, could we talk? Trina appeared on the back steps, protective but curious. I've been a coward, Carter said, his voice heavy with shame. I let fear of losing my business override everything I claim to teach about honor and justice. He met Maya's eyes. I'll be at the tournament, not just to sign papers, to support you. Publicly. They'll come after your dojo, Maya said. Carter's smile was sad, but determined. Let them try. Sometimes we have to lose something to remember what matters most. After he left, Maya resumed her practice, each move precise and focused. The porch light flickered, another electrical problem. But she kept going in the growing darkness. Inside, Emily's latest social media update pinged on Maya's phone. The support messages were outnumbering the hate now. People from neighboring towns promised to attend the tournament. A local civil rights group offered to document any interference. But with each message of hope came a shadow of threat. Emily's father's car was keyed in his office parking lot. Ruth's senior center students were told their instructor might be too busy to continue classes. Even Mr. Jefferson found his janitorial supplies mysteriously misplaced or damaged. Still, they persisted. Ruth trained Maya harder than ever. Emily's social media campaign grew. Mr. Jefferson told stories of much worse opposition he'd faced and overcome. That night, Maya lay in bed, her GI pressed and ready for tomorrow. The tournament schedule sat on her nightstand, her name printed clearly in the intermediate division. Outside, a car alarm went off, probably another random act of vandalism, but Maya focused on her breathing, just as Ruth had taught her. Trina came in, settling on the edge of Maya's bed. "You know," she said, smoothing Maya's covers, "when you were born, your daddy said you had fighter's eyes. Not angry eyes, determined ones." She touched Maya's cheek softly. "He said you'd change things just by being yourself." "I'm scared, Mom," Maya whispered. "Not of the tournament, of what they might do." "I know, baby." Trina's voice was strong and sure. But being scared and being brave aren't opposites. Sometimes they go hand in hand. She leaned down, kissing Maya's forehead. "I am so proud of you. Win or lose tomorrow, you have already shown more courage than most people show in a lifetime." Maya closed her eyes, feeling her mother's hand in hers. Tomorrow would come with its own challenges, but for now, in this quiet moment, she let herself feel the pride in her mother's words, the strength of all those standing beside her, and her own unwavering determination to show the world exactly who she was. The sun hadn't yet cleared the horizon when Maya's alarm buzzed. She'd barely slept, but adrenaline pushed away any tiredness as she carefully put on her freshly pressed GI. Her hands moved automatically through the familiar motions of tying her belt, just as her father had taught her. Trina was already in the kitchen, making Maya's favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast. "Eat up," she said, sliding the plate across their small table. "You'll need your strength today." Maya picked at her food, stomach tight with nerves. Through their kitchen window, she could see their neighbor, Mrs. Chen, waving encouragingly. Since Emily's social media posts had gone viral, more neighbors had begun showing quiet support. The drive to the tournament venue took 30 minutes. Maya watched the familiar streets of their small town give way to the bigger city's sprawl. Trina hummed softly to the radio, but her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The parking lot of the Western Regional Sports Complex was already filling up when they arrived. Competitors in various colored GIs streamed toward the entrance, some jumping in place to stay warm in the crisp morning air. Maya spotted several news vans with satellite dishes. "Look who's here!" a familiar voice called out. Mr. Jefferson stood near the entrance, wearing a neat suit instead of his usual janitorial uniform. He gave Maya a warm hug. "Ready to show them what you've got?" "She was born ready," came Ruth's voice as she strode up, her own black belt tied precisely around her waist. She carried a small gym bag that Maya knew contained extra hand wraps and water bottles. Emily arrived with her parents, phone already recording. "The support online is crazy," she exclaimed. "People from 3 states are following your story." Maya felt a flutter of nervousness at that. But then Sensei Carter appeared, looking more determined than she'd ever seen him. "The registration desk is this way," he said quietly. "I'll walk with you." Inside, the gymnasium hummed with activity. Practice mats were set up in corners where competitors warmed up. Judges in blazers huddled around clipboards. Parents filled the bleachers, many holding handmade signs for their children. At the registration desk, Maya handed over her paperwork. The woman checking forms frowned, looking from Maya to where Tyler's father stood nearby, clearly trying to intimidate them. But Carter stepped forward, his presence as a respected dojo owner adding weight to Maya's registration. "Everything's in order," he said firmly. "Maya Daniels, Intermediate Division." The woman stamped Maya's forms and handed her a competitor's number. As they walked away, Maya heard Tyler's father arguing loudly with the officials, but the paperwork was already processed. "Maya," Emily called from the bleachers. "Over here." She'd saved them spots near the front, perfect for watching the matches. A small cluster of supporters had gathered. Ruth's students from the senior center, some of Mr. Jefferson's friends from his activist days, even a few families from Maya's school who'd seen Emily's posts. As Maya began her warm-up stretches, she spotted Tyler, Chad, Austin, and Blake across the gym. They wore their dojo's team jackets, huddled together like wolves planning an attack. Their parents stood nearby, shooting dark looks toward Maya's cheering section. "Don't focus on them," Ruth advised, helping Maya stretch. "Remember what we practiced. Clean technique, perfect form. Let your skill speak for itself." The first matches of the day began. Maya watched carefully as other competitors faced off, noting their strategies. A local news reporter interviewed Emily about her social media campaign, while her camera operator filmed Maya warming up. Finally, Maya's division was called. Her first opponent was a tall girl from another city who smiled respectfully as they bowed to each other. The match started fast. The girl was good, but Maya was ready. Every block, every strike flowed naturally, just as she'd practiced countless times with Ruth. "Point, Maya!" the referee called as Maya landed a perfect reverse punch. The crowd cheered, not just Maya's supporters now, but others who appreciated good technique. Even some of the judges nodded approvingly. Maya won decisively, bowing again to her opponent before running to hug her mother. Trina's eyes shone with tears of pride. "That's my girl," she whispered. "Excellent form," Carter said, looking both proud and slightly ashamed as he remembered how he'd initially dismissed her. Between rounds, Maya sat with Emily and Ruth, sipping water and trying to stay focused. But movement caught her eye. Tyler and his friends were gathering in a corner, whispering intensely and shooting dark looks her way. Tyler's face was red with anger, his fists clenched at his sides. "Just ignore them," Emily said. But Maya noticed Mr. Jefferson moving casually closer to Tyler's group, positioning himself where he could hear their conversation. His expression grew concerned as he listened. More competitors were called to their matches. The gym echoed with shouts and the sound of feet on mats. Maya closed her eyes, centering herself, feeling the support of everyone around her. Whatever Tyler and his friends were planning, she would be ready. Maya stepped onto the mat for her second match, the crowd's energy electric around her. Her opponent, a stocky boy from a neighboring state, towered over her. But Maya remembered Ruth's words. "Size doesn't matter when your technique is perfect." The referee signaled the start. Maya's opponent charged forward aggressively, but she sidestepped smoothly, years of training with her father flowing through her movements. When he overextended, Maya countered with a precise combination: block, step, strike. The crowd gasped as the bigger competitor stumbled backward. "Point, Maya!" the referee called. Emily's excited squeal carried over the general cheering. From the sidelines, Ruth nodded approvingly. Maya caught glimpses of Trina filming on her phone, sharing every moment with their growing online following. The match continued, Maya's perfect form drawing appreciative murmurs from the judges. She won decisively, 3-0. "That's what I'm talking about," Mr. Jefferson shouted, standing up to applaud. Even some parents from other dojos were clapping, impressed by Maya's skill. Between matches, Ruth pulled Maya aside for water and coaching. "You're flowing like water," she said, adjusting Maya's GI. "Just like your father used to. He'd be so proud today." Emily bounced around them like an excited puppy, phone in hand. "The hashtag You're Maya Strong is trending locally," she announced. "People are sharing your story everywhere." Maya glimpsed Tyler's father arguing heatedly with tournament officials, waving papers and pointing in her direction. But Sensei Carter stood nearby, arms crossed, his presence a quiet reminder that Maya's registration was legitimate. The third match proved more challenging. Her opponent was quick and skilled, scoring the first point with a fast kick. Maya felt her heart race, but Trina's voice cut through the noise. "Breathe, baby. You've got this." Maya centered herself, remembering countless evening practices with Ruth. The next exchange was lightning fast. Maya blocked a punch, spun inside her opponent's guard, and scored with a textbook-perfect counter. The crowd erupted. "Beautiful technique," one judge commented loudly. Maya's opponent fought hard, but Maya's precision won out. The final point came from a combination that had Ruth beaming with pride. "That's my student," Ruth called out as Maya bowed to her opponent. The victory qualified Maya for tomorrow's finals, and the announcement drew cheers from her growing fan section. Tyler and his friends huddled with their parents, faces dark with anger. But Maya barely noticed them now. She was surrounded by real support, Emily hugging her, Mr. Jefferson giving her a fist bump, and Sensei Carter offering quiet congratulations. "Let's get some rest," Trina said, gathering Maya's gear. "Big day tomorrow." They drove to a modest motel nearby, where Trina had splurged on a room to avoid driving back and forth. Emily's parents had gotten the room next door, and Ruth was staying just down the hall. The motel's small meeting room became their celebration space. Someone ordered pizzas. Maya couldn't even remember who. She sat cross-legged on a worn armchair, happily munching a slice while Emily showed her all the supportive messages pouring in. "Look at this one," Emily said, scrolling on her phone. "Maya shows us all what real strength looks like." And here's another. "This girl is breaking barriers and taking names." Mr. Jefferson shared stories about other fighters for justice he'd known, making everyone laugh with his animated storytelling. Ruth demonstrated key moments from Maya's matches, drawing applause from their small but devoted audience. Trina sat beside Maya, arm around her shoulders, looking more relaxed than she had in weeks. "I knew you could do it," she said softly. "You're just like your father. Unstoppable when you set your mind to something." The pizza boxes emptied as the evening wore on. Someone found paper cups and soda in the motel vending machine. It wasn't fancy, but Maya couldn't remember feeling happier. Here, surrounded by people who believed in her, the past weeks of isolation and harassment felt distant. Emily's parents chatted with Trina about tomorrow's schedule. Ruth discussed strategy with Sensei Carter, who had stopped by briefly to drop off some sports drinks for tomorrow. Mr. Jefferson entertained younger siblings of other competitors with magic tricks he'd learned from his grandfather. Maya leaned back in her chair, taking it all in. The motel room was small and the furniture was worn, but it felt like a palace filled with champions. For the first time since the trouble started, she felt truly hopeful. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight was for celebrating how far she'd come. "Time for bed soon," Trina announced, noticing Maya trying to hide a yawn. "Champions need their rest." Maya nodded, hugging her supporters goodnight one by one. Emily promised to meet her for breakfast, already planning their social media strategy for tomorrow. Ruth gave her a gentle fist bump, her eyes twinkling with pride. The walk to their room was short, but Maya felt like she was floating. The day's matches played through her mind, not as anxiety, but as confirmation that she belonged here, that all her training had prepared her for this moment. The evening's warmth had faded into a cool night as Maya and Emily headed to the vending machines. Their footsteps echoed across the nearly empty parking lot, still damp from an earlier rain shower. "I can't wait to see you compete tomorrow," Emily chatted excitedly, counting quarters in her palm. "We should get some energy drinks for the morning." A shadow moved behind the ice machine. Before Maya could react, Tyler stepped out, followed by Chad and Austin. Blake lingered near the motel entrance, nervously glancing around. "Well, look who it is," Tyler sneered, his voice dripping with hate. "The little show-off who thinks she's better than everyone." Emily stepped closer to Maya, her quarters clenched tight in her fist. "Leave us alone," she said, but her voice trembled. "Shut up!" Chad snapped, shoving Emily roughly aside. She stumbled, coins scattering across the wet pavement with metallic pings. Maya's heart hammered as the boys circled closer. The parking lot lights cast long shadows, making their faces look twisted and mean. She shifted into a defensive stance, just as her father had taught her. "You think you're so special," Tyler spat, closing in. "But you're nothing. You hear me? Nothing." He lunged forward, shoving Maya hard against the vending machine. Her head cracked against the metal, making her vision blur. Emily screamed for help. Maya tried to block Austin's grab, but Chad caught her arm, twisting it painfully behind her back. She kicked out, catching Tyler in the shin, but it only made him angrier. "You stupid!" Tyler's words were ugly, filled with racial slurs that made Maya's stomach turn. His fist connected with her cheek, sending her sprawling onto the rough concrete. Emily ran toward the motel, screaming louder now. "Help! Somebody help us!" Maya struggled to her feet, tasting blood where her lip had split. She managed to block another punch from Austin, but Tyler grabbed her injured arm and yanked hard. Pain shot through her shoulder. "Stay out of tomorrow's match," Tyler hissed in her ear, twisting her arm until tears sprang to her eyes. "Or next time will be worse." Doors began opening along the motel walkway. Blake's panicked voice cut through the night. "Someone's coming!" The boys released Maya, shoving her one last time. She fell hard, scraping her palms and face on the pavement. Tyler kicked her once in the side before they scattered into the darkness. "Maya!" Trina's voice carried across the parking lot. Running footsteps approached as Maya tried to push herself up, her whole body shaking. "Baby, oh my God!" Trina dropped to her knees beside Maya, gathering her daughter close. Ruth and Mr. Jefferson weren't far behind, along with several other motel guests. Emily ran back with her parents, crying. They attacked her. Tyler and his friends. They were waiting for us. Maya's face throbbed where Tyler had hit her. Her arm felt like it was on fire, and warm blood trickled from her scraped cheek. But worse than the physical pain was the humiliation burning in her chest. Someone called the police. Maya sat wrapped in her mother's arms, shivering despite the blanket someone had brought. Ruth examined her injuries with gentle hands, while Mr. Jefferson paced angrily nearby. When two officers finally arrived, they seemed more annoyed than concerned. They barely took notes as Emily described what happened. "Did anyone else witness the actual assault?" one officer asked, looking bored. "My daughter is sitting here bleeding," Trina said, her voice tight with anger. "Look at her face," the second officer shrugged. "Could have happened any number of ways, without clear evidence or independent witnesses." "Those boys attacked her," Emily's father protested. "My daughter saw the whole thing." "They're just kids," the first officer said dismissively. "Probably just roughhousing that got out of hand. We'll talk to them, but without video evidence." Maya felt something break inside her. These were the people who were supposed to help, supposed to protect her. But they were already closing their notebooks, making excuses to leave. Back in their room, Trina carefully cleaned Maya's scrapes with supplies from the first aid kit she always carried. Each dab of antiseptic stung, but Maya barely noticed through her tears. Maybe I should just quit, she whispered, voice catching. Drop out of the tournament. Go home. Oh, baby. Trina's own eyes were wet as she bandaged Maya's palms. We can, if you want to. No one would blame you. Maya curled up on the bed, her bruised body aching. The tears came harder now, soaking into her pillow. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd fought against. It all felt hopeless in that moment. I'm scared, Mom, she admitted in the darkness. What if they come back? What if they hurt me worse next time? Trina stroked Maya's hair, humming softly like she used to when Maya was small. But she had no answers, no words of comfort that could make this right. Maya's quiet sobs gradually gave way to exhausted sleep, but even in her dreams, she couldn't escape the memory of Tyler's hateful words and the sting of betrayal from those who should have helped her. Sunlight crept through the motel curtains, casting thin stripes across Maya's face. She winced as she sat up, every muscle protesting. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror made her stomach clench. A dark bruise bloomed on her cheek, and dried blood crusted the scrapes on her face. A soft knock at the door made her jump. Maya? It's Ruth and Mr. Jefferson. Trina let them in while Maya sat on the bed, trying not to show how much her arm hurt. Emily slipped in behind them, carrying a paper bag that smelled like breakfast sandwiches. Child, look at me, Ruth said, sitting beside Maya. Her weathered hands were gentle as she examined Maya's injuries. Those cowards. Attacking a child in the dark. Mr. Jefferson paced the small room, his usually calm face tight with anger. Just like the old days. Nothing changes unless we make it change. I don't know if I can compete, Maya whispered, looking down at her bandaged palms. Everything hurts. That's exactly what they want, Ruth said firmly. They want you broken, scared, hiding. She tilted Maya's chin up, making her meet her eyes. Are you going to give them what they want? Before Maya could answer, Emily's phone buzzed. She grabbed it, eyes widening. Maya! Someone got it on video! A guest recorded everything from their balcony. They crowded around the phone. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Tyler and his friends attacking Maya and Emily, the racial slurs audible in the night air. The video had already been shared hundreds of times. It's everywhere, Emily said, scrolling through comments. People are furious. They're calling the police department, demanding action. As if on cue, Trina's phone rang. It was a local news reporter, asking for comment. Then a civil rights organization. Then supporters offering help. The tournament starts in 2 hours, Ruth said, squeezing Maya's good hand. What's it going to be? Maya looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. At Emily, whose friendship had never wavered. At Mr. Jefferson, who'd fought these battles before. At Ruth, who believed in her when no one else did. I'm competing, Maya said, her voice growing stronger. They don't get to win like this. Ruth helped Maya stretch carefully, working out the worst of the stiffness. Emily braided Maya's hair while Trina fielded more calls. Mr. Jefferson disappeared, returning with ice packs and athletic tape. When they arrived at the tournament venue, the atmosphere had completely changed. News vans lined the parking lot. Civil rights advocates carried signs supporting Maya. Local parents who'd stayed silent before were speaking out, their own children sharing stories of bullying by Tyler and his friends. Inside, tournament officials huddled in urgent discussion. The boys' parents were noticeably absent, along with their sons, who'd been disqualified after the video evidence emerged. Police officers, different ones from last night, took statements from witnesses. "Maya," Sensei Carter approached, looking ashamed. "I need to say something to everyone. Will you let me?" Maya nodded, surprised by the respect in his voice. He walked to the center of the tournament floor and called for attention. The crowd fell silent. "Last night, something happened that shames our whole community," he began, his voice carrying across the hushed room. "A young student was attacked for daring to excel, for challenging the status quo, for being different." He paused, swallowing hard. "I've been part of the problem, by staying silent when I saw bullying, by choosing comfort over courage, by letting fear of losing business matter more than doing what's right." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Maya felt Emily squeeze her hand. "But today, we have a chance to stand for something better," Carter continued. "Maya Daniels shows us what real courage looks like, not just in her skill as a martial artist, but in her determination to face down hatred with dignity, to fight back against injustice with grace." The crowd began to applaud. Maya saw phones recording, more people sharing the story. Faces that had turned away from her yesterday now smiled in support. "So today, I'm breaking with our dojo's board," Carter announced. "I'm standing with Maya, with what's right. Because that's what martial arts is supposed to teach us, not just how to fight, but when to fight. For justice, for honor, for change." The applause became thunderous. People stood, cheering. Maya felt tears in her eyes, but these were different from last night's. These were tears of vindication, of hope. Ruth's hand rested on her shoulder. "See? Light always breaks through the darkness, child. Always. Now, let's get you warmed up. You've got some winning to do." Maya nodded, straightening her spine despite the pain. She saw faces in the crowd, neighbors who'd finally found their voices, children who looked at her with admiration instead of fear, adults who were choosing, at last, to stand up and speak out. The morning sun streamed through the venue's high windows, warming her face. Maya took a deep breath and began her warm-up routine. Each movement a declaration. "I am here. I belong. I will not be broken." The tournament arena hummed with anticipation. Local news cameras lined the walls, their red lights blinking. Phones recorded from every angle as Maya stepped onto the mat, her bruised face drawing gasps from those who hadn't yet seen the viral video of last night's attack. Across the mat, Tyler stood with his shoulders tensed, his earlier cockiness replaced by something darker. His parents had pulled strings to keep him in the tournament, despite the assault allegations, claiming there wasn't enough evidence yet to disqualify him. "Remember," Ruth whispered as Maya adjusted her belt, "he fights with anger. You fight with heart. That's why you'll win." Maya nodded, trying to ignore the throbbing in her arm. The bruises from last night felt like they were pulsing with each heartbeat. But when she looked into the crowd, she saw strength reflecting back at her. Her mother's proud smile, Emily's encouraging thumbs up, Mr. Jefferson's steady nod, and hundreds of faces that had transformed from hostile to supportive overnight. The referee called them to center mat. Maya walked forward, each step deliberate despite her aching muscles. Tyler's face was a mask of barely contained rage as they bowed. "Ready?" The referee looked between them. "Begin!" Tyler attacked immediately, charging forward with a wild combination of punches. Maya slipped to the side, letting his momentum carry him past. The crowd gasped at his aggression, but Maya remembered her father's voice. Patience. Let them wear themselves out. She blocked another flurry of strikes, feeling the impact jar her injured arm. Tyler pressed forward, trying to back her into a corner. "You should have stayed down," he hissed, quiet enough that only she could hear. Maya said nothing, focusing on her breathing like Ruth had taught her. She saw the pattern in Tyler's attacks, all power, no precision. His next kick came high, telegraphed by his shoulder tension. Maya ducked under it and countered with a swift combination to his midsection, scoring the first point. The crowd erupted. Tyler's face reddened as he reset his stance. This time he circled more cautiously, probing for weaknesses. Maya kept her guard high, protecting her bruised face. When he lunged again, she redirected his energy, using his own force against him just as her father had shown her years ago. Point after point, Maya's technical precision overcame Tyler's brute strength. She could hear Ruth calling encouragement, Sensei Carter's voice joining in. The local news commentator was describing her technique in amazed tones, the footage streaming live across the region. Tyler's frustration grew with each lost point. His attacks became wilder, more desperate. During a clinch, he whispered another slur, trying to shake her focus. Maya responded with a perfectly timed sweep that sent him sprawling. The referee awarded her another point as the crowd cheered louder. "That's it, baby!" Trina called out. "Show them who you are!" Maya's arm screamed with pain as she blocked a particularly hard kick, but she refused to show weakness. She thought of all the nights training with Ruth, Mr. Jefferson's stories of perseverance, Emily's unwavering friendship. Each memory gave her strength. The final exchange came with 30 seconds left. Tyler, knowing he was behind, launched an all-out assault. Maya weathered the storm, deflecting and dodging until she saw her opening. As he overextended on a punch, she slipped past his guard and executed a perfect counterattack. The same combination she'd used in her very first sparring match at the dojo. Tyler hit the mat. The referee's hand went up. Point, match winner, Maya Daniels. The arena exploded in cheers. Maya stood tall, bowing to the referee, and then, despite everything, to Tyler. He refused to meet her eyes as he stormed off the mat, shoving past his stunned parents. Ruth reached her first, wrapping her in a gentle hug. "That's my girl. That's justice." Trina was crying as she embraced Maya. Emily jumped up and down, recording everything on her phone. Mr. Jefferson beamed with grandfatherly pride. Even Sensei Carter had tears in his eyes as he bowed deeply to Maya. Tournament officials draped a gold medal around her neck as reporters pressed forward with microphones. The live stream comments exploded with support. Someone had uploaded enhanced footage of last night's attack, the evidence now irrefutable. Police officers approached Tyler's parents, who were trying to slip out a side door. Maya heard phrases like assault charges and hate crime investigation floating through the crowd. The dojo board members who had supported the bullies now looked uncomfortable as parents demanded accountability. The mayor, who had ignored Trina's previous complaints, pushed through the crowd with an envelope in his hand. "Mrs. Daniels," he said loudly, cameras turning his way. "The town council has reviewed your work performance and would like to offer you an immediate promotion to senior manager, with a significant raise." He smiled nervously at the recording phones. "We value diversity and inclusion in our community." Maya barely heard the politics playing out around her. She was focused on the young children approaching the mat, eyes wide with admiration. A small girl with dark skin like Maya's asked shyly for a picture. A boy who had once laughed at her now asked if she would teach him that last combination. Sensei Carter cleared his throat. "Maya, if you're willing, I'd like to offer you a position as assistant instructor at the dojo. We're making some changes, big changes, and we need teachers who understand what real strength looks like." The crowd applauded again. Maya saw Ruth nodding approvingly, her mother wiping away proud tears. Through the venue's windows, she could see more people arriving, drawn by the live stream and viral videos. The story was spreading, changing things in ways she hadn't imagined possible. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.